My hair just looking like yeah. Let's see. We need to do something with this hair. I need to do something with it. Let's get the TikTok folks started. Does it look okay? It's my gray trim. I need to put something on my face. Put my makeup bag. Let's get the TikTok folks started. Hello, everybody. Dr. Tochi here. I'm just wondering, where the heck is my... Please, I hope I didn't leave it downstairs. Please, please. Oh, God, please. Okay. Okay. My tea thing on the phone, so let's get the TikTok people started. I hope you're having a great weekend. I hope you've had a great week. Greetings to everybody. I'm so glad to be here. Better. Just want to get the TikTok folks started so that we don't have to mess with them later. See, I should be able to fling a part of this hair somewhere. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Rupenda. We'll figure out what to do with it. Okay. Let me get my water. Please get your drink and your snack, your notebook, and your pen. Let me take these slippers off and just be grounded for this. I just have like a lot of wires here. Some of you might remember I keep on complaining about the wires under my table. Some wires. I'll get some water. So get your notebook, your pen, your snack. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Tochi, Papa Dr. Tochi, Mama of the men's and the women's. My website is tochi.us, drtochi.com. You can book me for your consultations there. Shane's what boy? You look like someone close to my heart. I know. Aw. Let's see. Let's see if my device is going to do the heart thing. Yeah, there you go. Okay. See, I need a, let me pull it there and cover that. So, I need to drink more water. So that's what I'm working on. Mm. Okay. So we have a lot to be grateful for. Okay. I know there's a lot going on in the world, especially this part of the world. It is what it is. Thank you for the likes. User 362473409506554. TikTok will do that kind of thing. It won't tell you who it is. It will just say user this. Okay. Today we are going to learn about witch bottles. Okay. Witch bottles in England and colonial America. And remember that whatever we're learning here about the witch bottles, it will pretty much apply to witch bottles wherever you find them in the world. These again are apotropaic devices, things that are for meant for protection. Okay. Your teaching on silence has helped me a lot. I'm still working on it. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm still working on remaining silent myself. There are some days I just feel like talking, and I just keep on talking and talking, talking and talking and talking, and then I end up regretting why I talked. Okay, so I don't want you to feel that you're the only person struggling with it. There's a whole bunch of us who struggle with the law of silence. Being able to move in silence, to operate in silence, to plan in silence. And the ultimate is to be silence. Not to be silent, but to be silence itself. That's the ultimate. Okay. Remember to tap and like. Give the class a thumbs up. That lets the algorithm know that class has started. Okay. So let's get into today's class. When we talk about witch bottles, we're not talking about the decorative stuff that you can buy from your local Botanica or from your antique store. Okay. Or something that your kindergartner put together for you, or something that you put together with items you bought from the dollar store. This is not what we're talking about here, okay? These witch bottles that used to be common in England and America were counter magic devices, very serious devices that were made by people who believed that harm could be sent their way, and they had to put together these witch bottles, okay, to protect them from evil that was being sent their way. Thank you so much for the likes. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Okay. So you have people who are like, I don't know what else to do, but I need to protect myself. So they put together a witch bottle. And these are folks in England. And some of them, when they emigrated to the Americas, they brought that um, knowledge of witchcraft with them. Okay. And remember that a lot of people who were doing these were also Christians. They were also Christians. They were people who were teaching the Bible, reading the Bible, preaching the Bible, yet they had these folk magic things that they did to protect them in those days that they didn't know too much about science or nature. Okay. This, for me, is a much anticipated class. Why? You want to know how to put together witch bottles? That is so cute. Esther, you're so cute. Okay. The funny thing is, because a lot of these people who were making witch bottles were Christian, they would swear on their Bibles that they were not practicing witchcraft. They will say to you, "This is something that I learned from my grandmother, great grandmother. I learned it from my mother. I learned it from my people. I learned it from my grandfather. I learned it from whomever, whatever. And I am a Christian. So this thing I'm doing, and I'm calling it a witch bottle, or they could call it something else, they would swear that it was not witchcraft." Okay. So a lot of early Christians in England and in the Americas practiced this. Remember what I said some classes ago. There is no pure religion today. Oh, okay. Okay. So there's no pure religion today. If anybody tells you, "Oh, my religion is pure," it is very easy to show people that what they think is pure is not pure. As a religion is introduced to a new culture, is taken from one place to another, it picks up elements of those cultures. And that is why Christianity in Africa is different from Christianity in Europe. That is why Islam in Africa is different from Islam in the Arabian Peninsula. That is why if you go to Europe and you're talking to a real European, and what I mean by real European, I'm not talking about color. I'm talking about the original inhabitants of Europe. I'm talking about the people whose cultures have been rooted in Europe for 4,000 years, 2,000 years, and then their culture adopted Christianity. If you go to those European Christians and you say to them, "Spirit husband," they will look at you like you are crazy. But if you go to Africa, Christian Africa, and you say "spirit husband," everybody will go, "Ah, yeah, spirit husband." And if you watch my class that I posted on my channel about spirit husbands, I discuss the origins of this concept of spirit husband and spirit wife and spirit children. And what happens is that as Christianity started coming through sub-Saharan Africa, it started picking up the traditional mores and beliefs of the people that it was passing through. So that got embedded into the religion. So that's why you will have Christians in sub-Saharan Africa who will believe in spirit husbands and spirit wives because it's part of their culture before Christianity came. It was part of their traditional culture and traditional religions before Christianity came. But if you go to Europe and talk about to an average European whose ancestors have been there for about 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years, and you say to them spirit husbands, spirit wives, they have no idea what you're talking about. Why? Because it's not part of their culture. Now, if they hang out with some Africans, they may have an idea of what it is, but it's not part of their culture. If you come to the Americas and you go to any of the churches in America, regular mainstream churches, I'm not talking about the African churches. If you go to a mainstream church in America or Canada or Mexico and talk about spirit husband, spirit wife, they will look at you crazy. They will ask you, "Do you need some help?" They're going to say to you, "Do you need help? Do you need a referral?" Okay. Thank you so much for the likes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. So we find out that it would not be uncommon for the people who made witch bottles to also say in the same breath that they were Christians and hardcore Christians, because they were. But the concept of witch bottles was an English thing, and they folded that into their Christianity and it became acceptable. It became an acceptable concept. And when we have cultural inclusions in religion, do not expect to find any scriptural support for what they're doing. They will tell you, okay, it may not be there explicitly in my Bible, but I can find verses that imply the validity of this thing that I'm doing. And that's when you start seeing people quoting verses that are obtuse to whatever it is that they're doing, and they'll look for verses in their scripture to support what they're doing. And when you read those verses, you will find out that those verses really have nothing to do with what they're doing, but they somehow in their minds justify it. Okay. So, which bottles, sit at the intersection of a number of experiences? The fear of malefic magic, that's the fear of evil, bad magic, domestic spirituality, body based belief systems, and the ancient instinct to trap and stop danger before it gets into the house. That is why people would make witch bottles. Okay. So, witch bottles is not what we would call ceremonial magic. You have an altar, you have representations on your altar, have your robe, be saying all these invocations and incantations. No, it is what you call like kitchen magic. Remember a couple of years ago, we had a lady who gave us a presentation on Slavic magic using things from your kitchen. Okay, and how people in the Slavic culture would use things from their kitchen cabinets to do one or two things in the home. Okay, this is on that level. Okay. So, in the late 16th to 18th century in England, people started making witch bottles when witches were being attacked, when witch trials were common. And so when a community came out or some accusers came out and said, "Oh, this woman is a witch," because it was a lot of women that were being accused of being witches. Okay. Men would be wizards and women would be witches. Okay. So back in the day when and there was a lot of it around suppressing the female voice. Remember back in England, they used to have, back then in England, they used to have these contraptions that were put over women's heads. It was a metal cage, and the cage will have a part with a ball that they will put into the woman's mouth or cook, and they'll put a padlock on it. And the purpose of that cage with that ball that they inserted in her mouth was to keep her from talking. And so you would have somebody could accuse a woman of talking too much, being talkative. If they felt she was being too sassy, that she was not being respectful to the males. And yes, this was in England. your almighty British Empire, they would judge her, and if she was found guilty, and of course she was going to be found guilty, they would put that cage over her head with that ball, and her husband would lock it, and she could not talk. And they would leave it on her for a long period of time to keep her from talking. She could probably eat, swallow one or two things, but she couldn't talk. Or maybe they would unlock it long enough for her to get something to eat. After that, they'll put it back and lock it. All right. So back in the day, a lot of women got accused of being witches. If you were outspoken, if you did not tolerate what the patriarchy was doling out, if you wanted to fight for women's rights, a lot of the rights that we take for granted today, okay, women would get punished. And unlike our current, um, in our present day, women get punished by being called prostitutes and whores. You label them a prostitute and whore. Well, it used to also happen back in the day. If you wanted to really damage a woman's character or her, yeah, if you wanted to assassinate her character, you would call her a whore, or prostitute, or harlot. Yeah. But the other thing that came up was calling her a witch. And you will still see that in our current language. Oh, she's a witch. What a terrible human being. She's such a witch. She's evil. She's a witch. And you see a lot of that in South America, in Africa, in Asia. When a woman is about to be demonized, they call her a witch. When people want to ostracize a woman or a child from the community, they will call that person a witch. And they will blame all the misfortunes of the family or the community on her. There doesn't have to be any proof that she did it. They would just accuse her and say, you know what, you are a witch, you are responsible for all the bad things that are happening here. And then the community will proceed to ostracize her. And if she didn't care about the ostracism, they would then proceed to punish her. And they could punish her by attacking her physically and taking her out. Okay. So during the witch trials, this idea of building witch bottles or constructing witch bottles came up. Okay. So they all witch bottles also emerged during the period of religious upheaval post-Reformation, when people were questioning the clergy, Catholic clergyman's interpretation of the Bible. Because remember, a lot of people back in the day in Europe were illiterate. They had to depend on their priest, bishop, or clerks to read for them and tell them what was going on. Knowing how to read and write was considered a privilege. So if somebody, a man or a woman, knew how to read or write, they were usually considered to be of upper class or people who had access to wealth. If you didn't have money, you didn't learn how to read or write. Now, the other people who knew how to read and write were the teachers and people who were in religion, like the nuns, the monks. Not a lot of nuns. It was more like the monks and the priests because, they were in charge of transcribing Bibles and other religious documents. Okay. Now, another thing that promoted the construction of witch bottles were plagues. Plagues. Remember, they used to have a lot of plagues in Europe. They had the bubonic plague. They had all kinds of diseases ravaging people. And remember, 16th to 18th century, they didn't have the antibiotics like we have today. So it wasn't like they could run over to their doctor and say to the doctor, "Hey, here's what's happening with me," and the doctor would give them prescription. The way medicine is practiced today did not exist during those times. So people had to depend on herbs and potions, lotions and tinctures and teas and prayer. They also depended a lot on fasting to heal them of diseases, but there was a lot of prayer going on. And then you have people who were like, you know what, instead of me just sitting here like a helpless duck and watch this thing attack me or attack my family, I'm going to construct something that's going to deal with it. Okay, so they would put together these witch bottles. Infant mortality back in the day in England was high. In colonial America was high, just like in a lot of places around the world. It's unfortunate that today that developing nations are being held up in the media as the only places or the major places where infant mortality is high. But and people tend to forget that developing nations today are being compared to developed nations that used to be developing nations back in the day. But if you were to compare what's happening in developing nations now with what happened in the days when the developed nation was a developing nation, it would be on par or high mortality, infant mortality rates. Women would spend major parts of their lifetimes bearing children in the hopes that they would have surviving children. In developing nations today, it is very easy for a woman to spend 20 to 25 years of her life in childbearing. It is very easy for a woman to spend 20 to 25 years of her life dedicated to childbearing. Okay. And a lot of that is also because the women start having babies young, and a lot of those children don't make it. High infant mortality rates. So you'll have there are some places where women are having children back to back to back to back. It is not uncommon to hear of a woman who would have 14 kids, 15 kids, let me not say kids, babies, and maybe only two would survive. And the good part, so, she'll have the baby, maybe wait a year, have another baby, wait another year. Sometimes it wouldn't even be up to a year, have another baby. And, so before you know it, 20, 25 years of her life is just focused on childbearing, trying to have a child, raise a child that survives. Okay. And the same thing used to happen in places like England. It used to happen in Europe. Used to happen in a lot of places. So even though today they will point to places like South America and Africa and parts of Asia and say, "Oh, look at them, they have high infant mortality rates," It used to be like that in Europe. Okay. So people would also build witch bottles when their crops would fail because they will have these beliefs that it was witches that were destroying their crops. Okay. So witches will come in the night or come when they were not looking and blight their crops. And in a lot of those economies back then, there were a lot of agrarian economies back then. If your crop failed, famine would follow. If your crop failed, famine would follow. Remember there was the potato disease, this huge potato disease that happened in Ireland, that a lot of Irish people died from it. I believe that was in the 18th century. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, 18th, 19th century. And what happened was because of the blight on the potatoes, a lot of Irish people migrated. That's how a lot of them ended up in the Americas because their crops failed. They would plant and harvest rotting, blackened, moldy, rotting potatoes. And there was hunger in the land, there was famine. So a lot of them were like, you know what, we're not going to just sit here and die. We're going to go to the new country. And they used to call America the new country. So many of them started emigrating to America. Some found their way to Canada. And those that remained would construct witch bottles because they were like there had to be spiritual reasons why this was going on. Okay. Now, another reason why they built witch bottles was for unexplained illnesses. Okay, thank you. Potato blight famine. Okay. So yeah, they had unexplained illnesses because remember when we're talking about the 16th, 17th and 18th century, medicine wasn't the way it is now. So there were some diseases they had then that we see them now and we understand what those diseases are and we know how to treat those diseases. But back then, they had no idea what these things were. And they thought that the reason for these diseases was witchcraft. Okay. That it was a witchcraft. So that they were being attacked by witches. So I hope that we're learning from this because there are some of us who deify foreign cultures and some of us who deify foreign religions over our own cultures and our own religions. And just because our people may still be in a so-called or relatively developing state, we think that other people's cultures and states are superior to ours. And I hope you're learning from this that other cultures also had periods of uncertainty, periods of superstition, periods of believing strange things, periods of being helpless. Okay. So, what we understand from these witch bottles is that people started doing this because they figured the first thing they needed to do was to protect their homes and to protect their families. Okay. So, they also understood that once evil started coming into the home, then a lot of damage could be done not just to the family unit and the people in the family unit, but a lot of damage could also be done to the community. All right. So when the colonists left England and relocated to America, they brought with themselves Bibles, their clothes. Okay, they brought their Bibles, they brought their clothes, and they brought their folk knowledge. And that's why you will see the presence of witch bottles and stories of witch bottles and how to make witch bottles in places like New England, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Okay, the eastern seaboard of the United States. Okay. They have a lot of folk magic that was derived from England in those places. If you also notice, those areas, Pennsylvania, Virginia, New England, including, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, okay, was where witchcraft accusations were high. Remember when they had the Salem Salem witch trials, okay? So these people not only brought with them their folk magic and folk knowledge, they also brought their beliefs about witches with them. Well, okay. When we were in the old country, that's what they refer to. Their home country is the old country. We had to protect ourselves against witches. Now we're in the new country. We have to protect ourselves against witches. Okay. Excuse me. I need to drink water. When these people came to the new country, remember again, they were coming with their ignorance about life and nature and illnesses. So, yes, they had a Bible, but they weren't Pentecostal. So there was none of that rabo bo 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 shaka le bo bo. There was none of that, right? And they also realized that their Christian ministers had a limited ability to help them out of their problems. So imagine that you were one of those pioneers that came from England or you came from Europe to America. They didn't have cars the way we have them now. Remember, people used to ride horses and buggies and walk on foot. Okay. If you had a bicycle, you were considered well to do. Okay. So if you look outside your window, just imagine how this place used to be. Lots of bushes, lots of forests, no tarred roads, rudimentary homes, you know, simple homes, homes with doors, windows, enclosed, no electricity. Imagine America as it was back then. No electricity. If you wanted light, you used an oil lamp. Or if you could afford it, you would buy candles. Not everybody could afford candles. Okay. A lot of people had oil lamps. You got up when the sun rose and you went home and went to bed when the sun went down. There was no internet, no phone. A lot of people were illiterate, so it wasn't like there was some newspaper circulating and you could read the newspaper. If there was a newspaper, y'all had to go get the one literate person in your community to read it, and everybody would gather around the person and listen to the person reading the newspaper for you to know what was going on. And there was a lot of superstition and lies going around because, again, people didn't have independent sources of information. You had to depend, your information was dependent on who told you the story. Your information was dependent on who told you the story. You couldn't hi pastry nest. You couldn't come out and just say on your own go and find information or research information. It wasn't like that back then. So imagine living that kind of brutish life. You woke up, you went to the farm or went to your trade, did your thing, and came back home. That's it. You will get married, produce children, try your best to feed the children, and hope that your children will survive. If your children didn't survive, you will spend time procreating in order to replace the children that weren't surviving. That was your whole life. Eat, drink, procreate, work. That was it. There was no entertainment. There was no, yeah, there could be bars. Most of the men went to the bars, and any women who were in the bars were considered prostitutes. Okay. Your entertainment was either the bar or the church. There's the only two places you could go for entertainment. There were no movies for you, no TV, no television, no electricity. Okay. So when you are living under those kind of conditions, you depend on information from other people, and you are hoping that the information other people is giving you is correct information. And a lot of times it was not correct information. There was a lot of misinformation. And people could just cook up some story and say it was a true story. That's the reason why back then you had snake oil salesmen. People would get oil and tell you, oh, here's an oil. If you buy this oil, it will treat every condition that you have, or drink this tea, it would fix every condition you had. You had to believe it because you had nothing else to compare it with. And you were hoping against hope that whatever it was they were selling was going to work. And we still have that in parts of Africa and South America today, even Asia. People who will come on public buses and be selling stuff. And they will tell you, if you drink this thing, it will take care of this, and that. And because you don't have money, you can't go to the hospital, you don't have access to a doctor, you buy it because you're hoping against hope that if you drink this thing, that it will take care of your illness. Okay. You hope it will take care of your illness. So that's the kind of environment in which these people lived in. There was a lot of intimidation, a lot of people taking each other out and no questions asked. Okay. So people imagine living in that kind of situation and all you're thinking about is how can I protect myself? How can I protect my family? How can I protect myself? How can I protect my family? Hence these witch bottles. Okay. So what do they use for witch bottles? For the container, they would use glass bottles. They would get a glass bottle. Any glass bottle will do. Okay. Sometimes they will get stoneware jugs. Remember, they used to use a lot of stoneware and earthenware back in the day, so they will get those things. Those are known as the Bellarmine or Bartman jugs. Okay. And they used glass bottles and stoneware because that is what they could easily lay their hands on and something that they could seal. They could put a piece of wax, put a bit of cloth on it and tie it. All right. So, and they believe that these earthenware or glass containers could be used to catch evil. And like I said, you have this type of spiritual technology in other parts of the world. I remember watching some videos. I think there were Nollywood videos, Nigerian videos, where they were capturing and putting witches inside a bottle. Okay. And they would show the witch in miniature form inside the bottle. I saw some other videos where they were like, "Oh yeah, if you want to control your husband, put him in a bottle and close the bottle." So again, the concept is that the glass bottle or the stoneware container jug was what was going to be used to capture evil. Use it to capture evil. Okay. So the other thing they put in the witch bottles were sharp objects, such as pins, nails, thorns. And the idea behind putting these sharp objects was to inflict pain on whatever was evil that they were capturing inside the bottle. So their belief was if I put some pins or nails or thorns in here and the evil thing is captured inside the bottle, they would get prodded and poked by those sharp objects that are inside here. So imagine that, you stuck your finger in there. Of course, you would get a pinprick or something. You get injured or stabbed by what's inside there. So that was their belief, okay? So it was considered a form of reversing the aggression, okay? Um, it was also seen as a form of energetic agitation. If I use this to capture something evil, and there are sharp objects in here, I can punish them. I can disrupt their energy. Okay. And I can make them be in pain. As long as I have that evil or that witch or evil person or evil energy in here, I can come here from time to time and do this. And all those sharp objects in there will cut them and slice them and prick them, and they will be suffering. All right. So the other thing they use to trap, because remember again, this is considered the trap, the glass bottle or the stoneware container. And then you have things, sharp things in there. So they will now say, how do you get that evil thing or witch to go in there? You're going to lure them in there. Okay. You're going to lure them in there. So remember, we talked about those spiritual mittens where they use children's shoes. In this case, and we talked about what was the other one we talked about where we talked about the um using things for personal items of the person. So in this case, what they would do is they would now use hair. So if I believe that I had a witch that was coming after me and they were interested in attacking me, I could cut my hair, take take a few locks of my hair, strands of my hair, and put it in here. I could clip my nails and put my nails in here, nail clippings. I could also put my bodily fluids. So it wasn't uncommon for people to put their own urine into these bottles. Because again, people understood that your hair, your nail, your urine, your blood, your saliva had your essence in it, your spiritual imprint. And we find that in magic today, people will still use these things. And I do have an old YouTube video class on these things about bodily fluids and things like that. Why it is dangerous for you to just be handing over your bodily fluids to folks. Someone says to you, let me do spiritual work for you, give me your semen or give me your menstrual blood or give me your saliva or whatever the case may be. I have an old video class on that, the dangers of that. Okay. So when you talk about urine, It's believed to carry the essence of the person, and it anchors the bottle to the victim. So now the belief is that once you put together the hair clippings or nail clippings and or urine inside the bottle, that thing, evil person, the witch, it's just like a heat-seeking missile, and it's looking for your energetic imprint. Is looking for your energetic signature. And once it senses that your energetic signature is in this bottle, it will go straight for the bottle because it's not going to discriminate. You know, you have a lot of things that belong to you everywhere. But remember, these people believe that using hair and nail and urine were particularly strong. And so the evil person or thing or witch will go straight for that because it came off of your body. It's part of your body. Your hair grew out of your skin. I'm not talking about wigs, folks. Your real hair, your real nail, not your acrylic nails. Okay. So the evil was supposed to sense the person's energetic imprint and say, oh, this is from the person's body. And we'll go there into the bottle. Right. Now, some people, when building their own witch bottles, would include salt. Okay. So they'll have salt in there to neutralize any evil energy that went in there. Some people will put in sulfur and that sulfur was based on their Christian beliefs. Remember, they believed that hellfire had sulfur in it to burn the evildoers. So they'll put some sulfur in there. Okay. Some people will put wine or vinegar. Again, to something acidic to burn the evil that was going into that bottle, okay? So they'll put all that together. And then where would they put this? They will put it in the hearth. Remember the hearth, a lot of homes in England, in Europe, and the colonial homes here had hearths. And the hearth is that part when you come into the home, is usually in the living room where you put your firewood and you burn a fire. And people would sit around that fire to keep warm. In a lot of those old homes, they would cook over the hearth fire. They would dry their clothes around the hearth fire. They would pray around it. And you have your hearth and then the chimney coming up from there. So the smoke and the soot and everything could go up there. The hearth was considered the heart of the home. So they would take this bottle with everything in it and bury it in the ground beneath the hearth, beneath where that fire is. Okay. Another place they will put this bottle will be in the threshold. So they will put it near the door. Okay. They'll put it near the window, put it on the window ledge, points of entry into the home so that if that witch came, will get trapped in there. They would also hide things like this inside the wall during the construction of the home. And that was considered to be a form of long-term protection. If you're building your own home and then you take a witch bottle and you bury it in the wall there. All right. It also prevented the bottle from being tampered with, and it would just stay there. Okay. So Archaeologists who have been digging into colonial homes, both in England and America, have found these things. And they have found that these things were not only placed in walls or hidden under hearths or hidden in, in the windows and the doors, but these things were placed there very carefully. So it wasn't like people constructed a witch bottle and then threw it in there and covered it up. No, it was placed very carefully. They were set like traps. Okay. Now, here is the what you can call the theological gymnastics of this practice. Remember, we've said that this is English witchcraft. This is colonial witchcraft. But the Christian people who were doing this, if you ask them, they will say to you, no, this is not witchcraft. They would say to you, oh, no, this is what my people do. And then they would go to their Bible and try to find a Bible verse to support what they were doing. Okay. But they would never agree it was witchcraft. Okay. And some of the ways that they used to justify this in their mind will be like, well, I am not sending harm to anyone because if I actively send harm to somebody, that is witchcraft. I'm just protecting myself from harm. Okay. Now, they also looked at protecting yourself as a way for God to help you. So remember the saying, God helps those who helps themselves. So they're like, God is going to help me if I help myself. And one of the interesting things is, I can't tell you how many times people will tell you that that saying is in the Bible. They'll say, you know how it is said in the Bible, God helps those who help themselves. It's not in the Bible. But we have grown up in a culture that will quote things in the Bible, quote things in the Quran, quote things in the Tanakh that are actually not there. And nobody questions it. Everybody just say, oh, Dr. Tochi said that it's in the Bible, God helps those who help themselves. Cleanliness is next to godliness. The person will not go and check for themselves and see, is it actually in the Bible or not? So that's what a lot of these early Christians from England used to do. They would have all these pithy sayings, and they will say, oh, yeah, that's what God says, or that's what's in the Bible. They also justified using this kind of thing by calling it a folk remedy. They wouldn't call it witchcraft, they called it a folk remedy. And in previous classes, we have looked at how renaming something makes it more rational and palatable to the mind. Okay. If I give something a more pleasant sounding name, it becomes more acceptable. If I say to somebody, I'm going to construct a witch bottle, people are going to say, well, are you a witch? But if I say to them, I am going to put together a folk remedy, no one is going to question me. They're not going to say, what, don't you think that's shirk? Don't you think that's witchcraft? Don't you? No, I'll say this is a folk remedy. Oh, my grandparents, great grandparents used to use this and it worked a lot as a folk remedy. And I will say to you, it only uses natural ingredients. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? Today, even on social media, we see a lot of people putting forth things and they'll tell you, oh, it's not dangerous. It's just a folk remedy. This is a folk remedy. It's not witchcraft. It's a folk remedy. It's all natural. And many of us, once we hear that term, it is all natural, we relax our guard. We put down our guard. Okay. Excuse me. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So even on social media today, you'll see a lot of people coming forth and saying, oh, it's all natural, it's all organic. And when you ask them, what do you mean by organic? They will tell you, oh, there are no chemicals in here. There are no strange things in here. But if you start examining what that thing they're trying to sell to you, you will find out there are a lot of strange things in there. Or there might be other things that are not helpful to you that's in there. Like people will sell certain drinks to you and they say it's all natural, no preservative, but the thing has 100 grams of sugar in it. And they'll tell you, oh, it's natural sugar, it's honey. 100 grams of sugar is 100 grams of sugar. Doesn't matter whether it's honey, cane sugar. Sugar is sugar. Okay, right? So people started using different words to describe what they were doing. And another reason why they called it other names was so that they wouldn't be condemned by other people and they wouldn't be condemned by their ministers. So if the minister came and said, well, what's that bottle? And they said, well, it's a folk remedy, the minister wouldn't bother them. And the minister wouldn't call them out for being witches. Because remember, back in the day, one of the highest forms of attack was being called a witch. Okay. So the Christian ministers of those time knew exactly what those things were. Somebody's taking a glass bottle, putting sharp objects in it, putting their urine in it, doing this and doing that, and putting it here, there, everywhere. They knew exactly what that thing was. But as long as the person did not say, this is a witch bottle or this is witchcraft, the minister is willing to overlook it. And we still have things like that today. Okay. So some of the things we can learn about witch bottles is that protection protection was a big deal. It's a big deal then and is a big deal now. One of the biggest requests that people get in spirituality is for protection and cleansing. And when you ask people, what do you want to be cleansed from? They will tell you, I want to be cleansed from negative energies. And I want to be protected from negative energies. Okay. TikTok is trying to do its thing. Okay. Okay. So if you're watching me on TikTok, I think TikTok is doing this thing, is spinning around. So Mm, I guess it's probably gonna bump off the folks who are watching me on TikTok. Oh well. All right. The other thing we learned from this is that back in the day, as in today, homes were spellcraft centers. People didn't wait to start having an altar, to start having a shrine, to start doing big things in order to create devices for their own protection. Okay. And the reason why these kind of things survive till today, because today, if you look in the spirituality space and in ceremony, in the magical space, people still put together witch bottles, but they call it different names. And they will call it a sour jar. They will call it a honey jar. Okay. They will call it a money jar. It's all the same principle. Using that bottle, using that jar to capture something. So that still exists till today. That folk practice, that folk magic of using bottles to do things, to change circumstances, either to attract or to repulse, still exists till today. Okay. So again, we also learned that which bottles were used to enforce boundaries. They were used to enforce boundaries. I don't want this to come into my home. Or if you're putting together a honey jar, I want this to come into my home. So they're used for boundaries. Okay. So, what questions do you have about today's topic of witch bottles? On TikTok, I don't know what's going on. I have a spinning wheel here on TikTok. So I think TikTok wants me to verify that I'm still here. I'm still here. So, but it wants me to verify that I'm still here. So in case you're experiencing a interruption on TikTok, that's what's going on. I'm seeing a spinning wheel on my screen. So what questions do you have about witch bottles? People still make witch bottles today. But like I said, they will not call it witch bottles. People still make all kinds of witch bottles today. Sometimes people will tell you, "Oh, I'm putting together um I'm doing some glamour magic and I'm going to use a bottle and put some beautiful things in here." Sometimes people will say, "Oh, I want to make a honey jar, a honey bottle, and attract money or attract love or attract attention or whatever it is that they want to attract." Those are witch bottles. People will say to you, "Oh, I'm going to capture my enemies and lock them up in a bottle." That's witch bottles. Oh, I have a boyfriend, I have a husband, or there's this man out there or that woman out there. I want that person for myself, and I don't want anybody else to have them, and I don't want to share them with anybody. And I'm going to lock the person in here, and they will take the essence of the person and put it in here and do whatever they do and close it. That is a witch bottle. But they're not going to call it a witch bottle. Sometimes they will tell you, "Oh, it's a honey jar. It's a sour jar for my enemies." And I have video classes on that, how to make a honey jar, how to make a sour jar. Oh, it's my money pot, my money jar. And we will give different names to these things as long as whatever name we give it, people are not condemning us. We don't want to be condemned. So we will give it whatever name we think works. Okay. Yeah, honey yeah, honey. Yeah. So any questions about today's class? So while I'm just waiting here for any questions that come through, I wanted to say something. Women, we need to start taking responsibility for our part in participating in bad marriages. I know that on social media for a while now, there have been a lot of content creators coming out and saying, okay, um, women being abused and women experiencing DV and their husbands and boyfriends doing all these things to them and whatnot. Or women just saying, oh, I was deceived and I was foolish and I didn't recognize what was going on early and so on and so forth. But I want to say this. Once you recognize that you are not being treated well, but you choose to stay, you need to accept responsibility for that. You need to accept responsibility for that. Don't try to go, oh, if it's God's will. It is, you know, you are the one choosing to stay in that bad situation. And you're saying it is God's will. It is not God's will, it's your will. You need to accept responsibility for that. If someone is beating you like a Congo drum, and you're spending all this time showing people the swollen lips, swollen eyes, and the blood and the wounds and everything and whatnot, and you do not leave that situation, you need to start accepting responsibility for your situation. Some people will say, oh, if I left him or if I left her, how would I take care of myself? Well, how did you take care of yourself before you met this person? If you are out here in these streets telling the stories of what this person is doing to you, male or female, and people are offering you help and you are rejecting the help based on your Bible, based on your Quran, based on your Tanakh, based on whatever scripture you have, it is now your responsibility. And you have to be prepared to accept the outcomes of that responsibility you have taken upon yourself. There are some folks out here who, instead of dealing with their situation, dealing with their abusive situation, they are creating all this emotional content, garnering attention, reading the comments. That's what they want to do. They want to be reading comments where people are saying, you're so strong, God will save you, God will reward you, God sees everything, don't worry, karma's a bitch, and nah. And that's all you want to do. There are some of you who are staying back because of the sex. Some of you are staying back because of the money. And if you didn't get the money, you didn't get the mind-blowing sex, you would leave. But when people say to you, why don't you leave? You say, oh, it's my mother. My mother said I should not get divorced. She never divorced my father. Therefore, I shouldn't get divorced. Stop putting it on your mother. Stop putting it on your mother. Because if the money wasn't there and the sex wasn't there, you are not going to stay. They will use all kinds of excuses. Okay, they do not want to separate the children from their male parent. That's not true. They are the ones who don't want to be separated from the man. But they will say it's the children, but it is them that don't want to be separated because either the money is good or the sex is good. We need to be able to tell ourselves the truth. If a person has shown you by their actions who they are, it is your decision to stay or to go. So as women, we need to tell ourselves the truth. Oh, um, if I leave this marriage, people are going to laugh at me and say I couldn't stay in my marriage. If the sex wasn't good and the money wasn't good, you will leave that marriage and you will find someone else to marry you. Finding someone to marry is not a problem. You can always find someone to marry you. They may be shorter than you like or fatter than you like, but you can always find someone to marry you. But there is a perceived benefit you are getting there that is keeping you from leaving. And if you choose to hold on to that perceived benefit, the rest of us will not get involved. And so that's the reason why nowadays, when I go on social media and I am seeing people putting up videos of themselves looking all busted up, and they're like, what should I do? And the snarky part of me wants to respond and say, what I need you to do is to stop showing up on my FYP. If you can do me that favor and stop showing up on my feed, that's all I need for you to do. Because if I have had enough and I do not want to stay, I don't have time to make a video. I don't have time to create content about my situation and putting it on social media. I don't have time for that. I'll be busy moving. But the fact that you have time, so your lip be busted, your eye be busted, your face busted, blood everywhere, but you still have time to set up your camera. Ah, look at me. I want y'all to look at how I appear to you. Imagine that I'm busted up. Look at me. I want you to look at me. Imagine that I'm all busted up and I'm picking up my phone. This is what's happening. Ah, I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Look at what he did to me. Last night around 1:31 a.m. Do you see it? Do you see it? I don't know how much of this I can take. My children are crying. Me, I'm crying. My heart is broken. I am so broken. I don't know what to do. I just need someone to tell me what to do. Every week this goes on. Last time he broke my arm, and my arm was in a cast for 3 months. I just need some sincere advice as to what to do. And then I press post. Do y'all see how ludicrous that is? Do y'all see how ludicrous that is? But there are some people, you will go to their profile and they'll have video after video, picture after picture. Well, let me tell you the latest thing that happened to me yesterday. She slapped me again. I don't know what to do. I need your help. Can you tell me what to do? I'm a survivor. I will get through this. I'm a fighter. I know God is on my side. Post. So even the person who is doing this and posting this about being abused is a manipulator. Because you have now concluded in your own mind, the way I can get attention from others is let me post my suffering. People feel sorry for me, but I'm not going to leave there, because if I leave there and I don't get busted up, nobody will know me. Nobody will pay attention to me. Nobody will send me care packages. Nobody will send me money. Do you see how even the so-called abused is manipulating the situation? So you have time to pick up your phone and create content, and you're still there. So it's not as if you create content and say, today's the last day, I'm just documenting it here that I'm leaving now. No, I want y'all to see what she did to me, what he did to me. God is my witness. God will punish them. So at some point, we need to start taking responsibility for our experiences. If you have time to sit there and create content, and you're continuously creating content, and you're not taking any action but create content, I'm afraid I'm not interested in your situation. I know it may sound harsh, but it is what it is. And upon this hill, I will stand and defend myself. Some people say, oh, well, when the woman is doing that, she doesn't, she's confused. Okay. Reach out to me when you achieve clarity, because there's nothing I can do for you while you're confused. Confused people don't listen. Mhm. Confused people don't listen. So if you have time to carry your phone, showing all the places you got busted up, and then you post that every week. You're posting how you got busted up. You're not serious. Oh, I have nowhere to go with my children. You haven't even attempted to go anywhere with the children. You have not even attempted to go anywhere with them children. You're right. They're the covert narcissist. I'm going to play with your emotions. I am going to milk your emotions for profit. I'm going to trap people in my drama because I am an energy vampire. A lot of those people posting those videos day after day, week after week, refusing to change their situation, they're energy vampires. They feed off the energy of sympathetic people. They want to see how many likes they're going to get. So in 2026, we're not playing that game. When a person is determined to leave an abusive situation, they don't care what the cost is. When a person has made up their mind, this is not going to go on anymore, they don't care. They don't care. They're not there saying, oh my God, what will people say if they see me sleeping under the bridge with my children? If I were to find myself in such a situation, which I mean, I can't, with the kind of nature I have, but if for some reason I found myself in that situation, mhm, it will be the last thing you will ever do in your life. Greetings. It will be the very last thing you would ever do in your life. And I will leave. I don't care if I have to be homeless. I don't care if I have to sleep eh, somewhere under the bridge, but I will not stay there. And there is nothing anybody will tell me that will make me stay there. Nothing. Nothing. Even if you pull out a piece, I still will not stay. If you figure you need to take me out, but I will not stay. I will not, of my own will and volition, in my right mind, stay. I will not. So that's why when I see people making video after video of the same thing, help me. He beat me last night. He beat me last week. When I talked to his mother, and she said I should stay. I talked to my own mother. My mother said there should be no divorce in the family. I talked to my pastor. My pastor said, resist the devil and he will flee. The devil is trying to scatter your marriage. Jesus said, forgive 70 times 7. And every week you're making video about the same thing. Every week. You cannot convince me that you're not doing that for money. You're doing it for money. And if you're creating your content for money, that's okay. I don't have to be involved in it. I'm not going to get involved in it. I'm not going to participate in your drama. I am not going to comment. I'm not going to like. I'm not going to say anything. Matter of fact, I'm not going to even watch it the second time. Once I see your face showing up again, I'll swipe. And an important reason I'm going to swipe is because what's happening to you is contagious. If you keep on watching people and listening to people who will not take action on their situation, it is contagious. You will start seeing in your own life, you who is just the innocent observer, the innocent watcher, you are going to start seeing problems in your own life because your energy will start resonating with that person's energy. And you will start wondering, why is it that I'm just having these strange problems show up in my life? The reason why those strange problems are showing up in your life is because you're resonating with that drama that that person is doing over there. Okay. Because there are so many people who spend their time looking for and consuming content like this. Oh, here's another person being abused. Here's another person who's fighting a man. Here's another person fighting their husband. Here's another person fighting their boyfriend. Here's another, and that's the only material they consume. And the platform like TikTok will keep on sending you more and more and more and more and more of that. And then your energy now becomes in resonance with that. And then it starts showing up in your life, not just in your FYP, it starts showing up in your life. People start treating you disrespectfully. People start doing strange things to you. And you're there wondering, why is this happening to me? I didn't do anything to deserve this. You are consuming content that you are energetically in resonance with. That is why it is showing up in your reality. I remember one time on TikTok, I watched someone posted something about their child dying under tragic circumstances and posted the funeral. And I looked at that and I was like, oh, and I commented on it. I am so sorry for your loss. Within 5 minutes, TikTok started sending me videos back to back to back of people who had lost their children under tragic circumstances. So I would swipe, I would see another coffin, swipe again, coffin, swipe, here they're burying somebody, another coffin, coffin back. I was like, what the hell? And you start watching that, and then you start saying to yourself, oh, maybe it's a spiritual message. Maybe it's a spiritual, it's not a spiritual message. There's no spiritual message there. There is no spiritual message. It is what your energy is resonating with. So and TikTok and these platforms are very good at demonstrating these spiritual principles. The more you watch certain kinds of content, the more they start sending more of that content your way. So if you're there watching videos of people whose children get took out, videos of people burying their children, people posting pictures of, the platform will keep on sending you more and more of that because they're seeing that that's what you enjoy watching. That's what you're resonating with. And life is just like that. The platforms actually, in that sense, mirror your reality. So if you're out there and all the time you're consuming material about, oh, men are scum and man did this to me and my husband, and I have a bad husband. I used to have a bad husband, and what bad husband, look at what happened to me. See how I got busted up, and here's somebody else I'm busted. Life will keep sending you more and more of those experiences. And at some point, you're going to wake up and say, why am I having this in my reality and not the thing that I want? I want a baby girl life. I want a rich auntie life. I want a soft wealth life. Why am I not getting more of that? The reason why you're not getting more of that is because that's not what your attention is focused on. So if you are in your home and you are being beat like a conga drum, you're aware that you have become the punching bag or the conga drum of the household, and you write me and you say, what should I do? I will not respond. And the reason why I won't respond is because you already know what to do. You're just looking for someone to co-sign what you have decided to do. Women know what to do. Men know what to do. If you wanted to eat French fries, if you wanted to eat sweet potato fries, if you wanted to eat fried plantain, do you go looking for someone's permission to do that? No, you will go ahead and make it happen. If you wanted to eat a burger, if you wanted to eat fish, you will do it. You're not going to come to me to co-sign that and give you permission to do that or give you my opinion on that. No, you're not going to do that. You're going to go ahead and make it happen. So you already know what to do. So you're not going to take up my time doing a back and forth on what you already know what to do. We're not going to do that. And I'm not going to be part of that because I don't want your reality to be part of my reality. I don't want your reality to start showing up in my timeline, especially when you already know that if I give you advice, you're not going to follow that advice. I don't want your reality to start showing up in my timeline. And I said this in a different class, and I'll say it again here. If you advise somebody once or twice and they refuse to take that advice, you need to leave them alone. Leave them alone. Stop giving them advice. Leave them alone. You will not change them. Leave them alone. You can give them all the words of wisdom you have. They will not follow your wisdom. Leave them alone. If you don't leave them alone, their reality will become your reality. So leave them alone. If you don't want what is happening to them to happen to you, leave them alone. Just leave them alone. Okay? So those of you who have written me long emails about what's happening and what you're asking me what you should do, I'm not going to respond to your emails because you already know what to do. You already know what to do. And I'm not going to get drawn into it. Oh, but you are a mother. Extend your motherly. No, 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 no. I will extend my motherly energy to things of benefit, to things of profit, not things that will cause me losses, not to things that will cause me problems. No. And so if you refuse to put your life in order, it's on you. It's on you. I'm not going to sit and be repeating myself. We're not going to do that. I will not repeat myself. If I say this and you choose to do something else, I'm not going to sit here and repeat myself in order to convince you to do what I asked you to do. Do what you want to do and reap the responsibilities of what you have chosen to do. That's it. Aye, Baba. Remember that we do have our Reclaim Your Authority retreat starting January the 25th. So a week from now. If you want to start learning how to work with yourself beyond spirit guides, if you want to start learning how to embody yourself, true accountability is very necessary. Yes, my dear, it is. So we still have seats available for that retreat starting January the 25th is for 7 days. Start learning how to really decode your own spiritual messages and not be dependent all the time on someone to decode spiritual messages for you. There are some people out here who cannot exist without their pastor or their minister or their whoever or their spiritual practitioner. There are times you need to, not even there are times, most of the time you have to start learning how to depend on yourself so that when you go to another person, whatever that person is telling you confirms what you already know. But if you don't know how to know for yourself, how do you know that what another person is telling you is correct for you? And this is why sometimes people will come to me in consultation and start arguing with me because they don't know for themselves if what I'm telling them is true or correct because they don't know how to find out for themselves if what I'm telling them is true or not. So so these are some of the things we're going to learn how to do in the retreat, the 7 days, 7 days of hard work. If you need more information, send me an email or go to my website and look on my events page. We'll start January the 25th. Start taking charge of your own spirituality. Stop being helpless. What will you do if the spirit guides you are working with are silent? What will you do? Will you know what to do? If the spirit guides you're working with do not respond to you, what will you do? Do you know what to do? We are thankful to our Creator, our guardian spirits, our ancestors, and our spirit guides for today's forbidden fruit. May we be given the courage to do that which is correct for us under all circumstances. Ashe, Ise, Kamagu, Koza, Isedi, Mkwande, Aibobo, Nyenho. It is done, it is complete, it is finished. Amen. Ma'at, Obrigado. Love you all. Thank you for coming to class. See you tomorrow.